The war between humans and the Thalari had already burned across the stars for 7 endless years. Every border planet carried the scars. Cities turned to dust, fields turned to ash, and skies filled with broken ships drifting like ghosts. Humanity had learned to hate the name Thalari, just as the Thalari had learned to hate the word human. Lieutenant Aaron Vale was tired. He wasn't an old man, but war had aged his soul. His eyes had seen too much death, and his heart had forgotten what peace felt like. On this day, he was sent to a dead moon called Rin 3. His mission was simple: recover the black box from a crashed Thalari scout ship and eliminate any survivors. Those were the orders, cold and clear. When his drop pod landed, the surface was silent. Gray dust stretched to the horizon, and the only sound was the wind scratching across his helmet. The Thalari ship had hit the ground hard. Metal wreckage burned in the distance, the flames flickering weakly in the thin air. Aaron moved carefully through the wreck. He stepped over shattered armor, twisted panels, and the remains of alien machines. The air smelled of smoke and blood. His pulse was steady, his rifle raised. He'd done this 100 times before. Find the data, finish the mission, leave no witnesses. But then he heard something. A soft sound. A breath, weak and broken. He followed it through the corridor of the wreck until he found her. A Thalari soldier, barely alive, leaning against the wall. Her armor was cracked, sparking at the edges. Her breathing came in sharp gasps, and a strange blue light flickered from the wounds in her side. Her helmet visor was cracked, hiding her face behind shattered glass. Aaron lifted his weapon, ready to end it. But before he could fire, she raised one trembling hand, not to fight, but as if to shield herself. He hesitated. Her other hand fell weakly, hitting the ground. The sound of her helmet unsealing filled the air, and then it rolled away, clattering across the metal floor, and in that moment, everything stopped. Aaron froze. He had expected a monster, a creature with sharp teeth or alien eyes. But the face that looked up at him was almost human. Pale skin with a soft silver glow, thin lines of light running down her neck like veins of starlight. Her eyes were large and violet, shining with both pain and fear. She looked young, too young to die in a place like this. For a moment, Aaron forgot where he was. The gun in his hand felt heavier, his breath shallow. The Thalari girl coughed and tried to speak. Her voice was weak, her words broken. Do it. End it. He couldn't. He didn't even understand why, but something deep inside him refused. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, not with hate, but with sorrow. Maybe it was the simple truth that she wasn't just an enemy. She was someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone who didn't deserve to die alone on a forgotten moon. Aaron lowered his rifle. No, he said softly. She blinked, confused. Why? He didn't answer. He knelt beside her instead, checking her wound. Her blood shimmered faintly, silver blue under the dim light. He reached into his med kit, trying to stop the bleeding, even though he knew his equipment wasn't made for her kind. You're helping me, she whispered. Just stay still, Aaron said quietly. You'll be fine. She looked at him for a long moment, her breathing slow. Then her eyes softened. Human, she murmured. Strange. He smiled faintly, though his hands shook. Yeah, you have no idea. Outside, the stars glowed cold and distant. The mission was forgotten. The war was forgotten. All that existed now was a human soldier and an alien girl. Two enemies, bound by the fragile spark of something neither of them fully understood. And as Aaron looked at her, bleeding but alive, he felt a strange truth rise in his chest. He couldn't explain it, but he knew deep down that this moment would change everything. He had come here to kill an enemy. Instead, he had found the reason he would one day defy every law of man to protect her. The silence inside the wrecked ship felt heavy, like the air itself didn't dare move. Aaron sat beside the injured Thalari girl, trying to stop her bleeding. Every few seconds, her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, her eyes fluttering weakly. She looked fragile, too fragile to belong to a species that humanity had feared for years. The Thalari were supposed to be monsters, soulless invaders who burned cities without mercy. But this one, she looked terrified, not cruel. Aaron's hand shook slightly as he pressed the med gel against her wound. The blue-silver blood hissed when it met human medicine, and a faint glow spread through her skin. She winced in pain, her fingers clutching his wrist. Easy, he whispered, his voice gentler than he expected. You'll make it, she blinked slowly, her lips trembling. Why, you help? she asked in broken English. Her accent was soft, musical. Aaron hesitated. He didn't know what to say. "Because I don't kill people who can't fight back," he muttered finally. Her violet eyes searched his face for a long time, as if trying to understand. Then she gave a small, tired smile. "Strange human," she whispered. Aaron looked away, pretending not to hear the emotion in her voice. He knew the rules. Any soldier caught helping the enemy would be court-martialed, maybe even executed. But something about her made him forget those rules. Maybe it was her eyes. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, not like an enemy, but like someone who couldn't believe kindness still existed. When her breathing steadied, she tried to sit up, but the pain made her gasp. Aaron caught her before she fell. She leaned into him for balance, and for a brief moment, they were close enough that he could see the faint glow in her eyes reflecting the dim light of the wreck. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Lyra." "Lyra," he repeated. "I'm Aaron," her lips curved faintly. "Aaron." She said his name like it was something fragile and precious. Outside, the wind howled through the wreck. The world had forgotten this place. No one would come for her. And if the human patrols found out he hadn't reported the crash, no one would come for him either. Aaron looked around the ruined cabin, thinking fast. He needed to destroy the distress beacon. If it transmitted, Command would send a retrieval team and Lyra would be dead before morning. He walked to the console, pulled off a panel, and yanked out the beacon core. The small device sparked, then went silent. The radio went dark. Lyra watched him from where she sat. "You stop it?" she asked. He nodded. "They won't find you now." Her eyes widened slightly. "You protect me?" Aaron didn't answer right away. He stared out at the empty moon, his reflection faint on the cracked window. "Maybe I'm just tired of killing," he said quietly. "Maybe I want to believe not everyone out there is a monster." Lyra was silent for a moment. Then she said softly, "We think same of humans. Monsters, killers." Aaron gave a bitter smile. Looks like both sides were wrong. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of broken machinery and the slow rhythm of their breathing. When Lyra finally spoke again, her voice was weaker, almost a whisper. "Thank you, Aaron Vale." He turned toward her, surprised she knew his full name. She smiled faintly. "It is. Written on your armor." Aaron couldn't help but laugh quietly. "Right. Guess that makes it easy to remember me." Her smile faded and her eyes softened with something deeper than gratitude. "I will remember," she said softly. Aaron felt something strange stir in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Not fear, not duty, but warmth. For the first time since the war began, he didn't feel like a soldier. He felt human again. As the night crept over the barren moon, Aaron sat beside Lyra and kept watch. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, orders, danger, death, but for now, he knew only one truth. He had chosen mercy, and that small choice in a world full of hate felt like the first step toward something far greater. Days passed slowly on the dead moon. The silence around the wreck felt endless, broken only by the soft hum of damaged engines and the faint breathing of two lost souls. Aaron and Lyra had no one but each other now. Aaron built a small shelter using metal scraps and broken ship panels. The cold nights were deadly, and the thin air made every breath feel heavy, but he didn't care about the discomfort. Every time he looked at Lyra sitting quietly under the flickering light, the loneliness faded a little. Lyra was healing, but slowly. Her alien skin glowed faintly where the wounds were closing. She often touched the bandages he'd wrapped, as if amazed that a human hand had cared enough to save her. Sometimes she tried to help him fix parts of the wreck. Her movements were graceful, precise. When she spoke, her voice carried a strange calmness like music from another world. She often told small stories about her home planet, oceans of silver mist, floating gardens, and twin suns that set in blue light. Aaron listened quietly, pretending he was just keeping her company. But inside, he felt something stirring. Every word she spoke painted a picture of a peaceful world that humanity had never known. He began to see her not as an enemy, but as a window into something beautiful. One evening, when the sky turned dark and stars covered the horizon, Lyra looked up and whispered, "Your stars." "They look like ours," Aaron smiled. "Maybe the same stars watch both of us grow up." She turned her head toward him. "Then why we fight under same sky?" He had no answer. He just stared at the distant lights and sighed. Because we forgot what it means to be the same. Lyra lowered her gaze, sadness in her eyes. Maybe war makes all hearts blind. Her words hit him harder than any bullet. He didn't know how someone from the other side could understand pain so well. Maybe pain was universal, something both humans and Thalari shared. As the days went by, they began to trust each other more. Lyra tried to learn simple human words, and her accent made Aaron laugh softly. Sometimes she would laugh too, covering her mouth shyly as if laughter was something forbidden. In return, Aaron tried to repeat a few Thalari words. His tongue stumbled over the sounds, and Lyra would shake her head, teasing gently, "No, wrong again. Human." Their small moments of laughter filled the silent moon with warmth, but deep inside, Aaron knew it couldn't last. If the human fleet found him, he'd be executed for treason. If the Thalari found her, she'd be labeled a traitor for trusting a human. Still, every time he looked into her violet eyes, he told himself that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way. One night, while he was repairing a transmitter, Lyra came and sat beside him. She watched his hands for a moment, then asked softly, "Why you save me, Aaron?" He paused, looking at the broken wires. "Because I couldn't watch you die. I've seen too much death already." She tilted her head slightly. "You risked your life. For me. Enemy." Aaron looked at her then. Really looked. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the light. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of unspoken feelings. "You stopped being my enemy the moment your helmet fell," he said quietly. Lyra's breath caught. She lowered her eyes, her hands trembling. "You are strange human," she whispered again. Aaron smiled sadly. "Yeah, maybe strange is what the world needs right now." For a while, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore, it was gentle, almost peaceful. Then Lyra did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was cool, smooth, and glowing faintly. "In my world," she said softly, "touch means trust." Aaron turned his hand, gently holding hers. "Then I guess I trust you too." For the first time in years, Aaron felt something real, something beyond duty, beyond fear. He felt hope. Two soldiers from opposite worlds sat together under a broken sky, holding hands. No war, no law, no commander could explain what they had just found. And in that fragile silence, Aaron realized that this feeling, this bond, was worth more than all the victories he had ever fought for. He didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. He would rather die protecting her than live in a world that told him not to. The fragile peace Aaron and Lyra had built on the dead moon didn't last forever. It was a calm before a storm neither of them could stop. On the seventh night, Aaron was outside the wreck collecting power cells when he saw it, a flash of light cutting across the dark sky. A human patrol ship, the kind that scanned crash sites and executed anything that moved. His heart froze. He ran back into the wreck, his boots kicking up dust. "Lyra," he whispered sharply. "We need to move." She turned quickly, eyes wide with fear. "What happened?" "Patrol ship, humans. If they find you, they'll kill you on sight." She stood up, weak from recovery but alert. "Then go," she said quietly. "Leave me. You can still live." Aaron shook his head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you here. You must," she said, her voice trembling. "They are your people." He met her gaze, breathing hard. "Not anymore, not if they'd kill someone like you." For a moment, Lyra just stared at him, her lips trembling as if she wanted to argue. But no words came. She nodded silently. Together they gathered what little supplies they had, a cracked helmet, a few oxygen tanks, and a small power cell. The sound of engines grew louder. The patrol ship was descending. The dust outside began to rise in thick clouds. Aaron looked around desperately for a plan. The wreck wasn't safe anymore. If the scanners picked up Lyra's alien energy signature, she'd be exposed instantly. Then his eyes fell on a damaged human exosuit lying in the corner. The armor was dented, but the visor still worked. He picked it up and turned to her. "Put this on." She looked at the suit, confused. "It's human." "Exactly," Aaron said. "If they see you in this, they'll think you're one of us. Keep the helmet sealed. Don't talk unless I say." She hesitated. "They will know. I'm not like you." Aaron stepped closer, his voice steady but full of emotion. "Then stay close to me and they'll never have to know." He helped her into the armor, tightening the straps and sealing the helmet. The suit was too big, but it would do. When she looked at him through the tinted visor, his chest tightened. She didn't look like an alien anymore. She looked like one of his own, someone he'd die to protect. As the patrol landed, floodlights swept across the wreckage. Aaron grabbed his rifle and stood tall. "Follow my lead," he whispered. The ramp of the patrol ship opened and soldiers stepped out, their voices echoing through the comms. "Lieutenant Vale, report status." Aaron raised his hand. "Sir, found a survivor." "Injured but stable, requesting immediate evac." There was a pause. One of the soldiers walked closer. "Survivor? From what unit?" Aaron forced a smile under his helmet. "No ID tag left. Armor's damaged. Probably from the 9th Recon." The soldier squinted but didn't question further. "Get them aboard. We're pulling out in 10. Aaron guided Lyra slowly toward the shuttle. Each step felt like a lifetime. If anyone scanned her suit, if anyone noticed the faint glow of her skin beneath the cracks, they'd both die. Inside the shuttle, the engines rumbled to life. Aaron sat beside her, his hand resting close to hers. Through the visor, he saw her glance at him. He gave a small nod, his eyes saying everything words couldn't. When the shuttle lifted off the moon, Aaron finally let out the breath he'd been holding. The wreck disappeared below them, swallowed by dust. Lyra whispered through the comm line, her voice soft and uncertain. "Why do this, Aaron Vale?" He turned his head toward her. "Because I made a choice," he said quietly. "The moment your helmet fell, I chose you over every order I've ever been given." For a long time, she said nothing. Then softly, she replied, "Then I will never forget this human who broke his own world." For me, Aaron looked out the window at the stars passing by. He knew the hardest part was still ahead. Hiding her on a human base would be nearly impossible, but as long as she was beside him, alive and breathing, he'd find a way. For the first time in years, the stars didn't look like cold, distant lights. They looked like hope, and hope was something neither side had seen in far too long. The shuttle touched down on the human base at dawn. The air was heavy with smoke and dust, and the ground trembled beneath the weight of engines. Aaron's heart pounded as he guided Lyra through the crowd of soldiers. Every step was a risk, every glance from another officer a silent threat. Lyra stayed close, her face hidden behind the helmet of the damaged human exosuit. She walked slowly, copying the way humans moved, her hands trembling slightly. Aaron hoped no one would notice. When they entered the medical bay, he told the medic, "She's from Recon Unit 9. Helmet cracked, still recovering. Needs isolation till her vitals stabilize." The medic nodded, too tired to question. "Fine. Isolation chamber 3, leave her there." Aaron helped Lyra inside the small, dim room and locked the door from within. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then he let out a breath he'd been holding since the moon. "We made it," he whispered. Lyra removed the helmet slowly, her silver hair spilling out. Her eyes met his, full of both fear and trust. "This place, your home?" He shook his head. "Just another cage." She looked around, touching the metal walls. "Cold, lonely." Aaron sat beside her. "You're safe here for now. But we can't stay long. If someone scans you, they'll know you're not human." She smiled faintly, a soft, sad curve of her lips. "You risk too much for me again." He looked at her seriously. "I'd do it again 1,000 times." Lyra tilted her head, her violet eyes searching his face. "Why?" she whispered. Aaron hesitated. The words he wanted to say sat heavy on his tongue. "Because you made me feel alive again," he said quietly. "Because you remind me what it means to care about someone." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Lyra reached out slowly and touched his cheek. Her fingers were cool and gentle. "In my world," she said softly, "we touch only those we wish to protect." Aaron's heart ached at her words. He placed his hand over hers. "Then I'll protect you too." The next few days passed in silence and fear. Aaron brought her food when no one was watching. Simple rations, pieces of fruit, and sometimes just water. Lyra was fascinated by human food, sometimes laughing quietly when she tried something new. That laughter, so light and pure, became the only sound that made Aaron's heart rest. At night, they would whisper to each other in the dark. She asked him about Earth, about blue oceans and green forests. He told her stories of rain, of music, of children playing without fear. She listened with wide eyes as if hearing of paradise, and she told him about her home, floating gardens of crystal flowers and skies that shimmered like silk. Her voice carried the sadness of someone who might never see home again. One night, after hours of silence, she whispered, "Aaron, if they find me, what will they do?" He didn't answer right away. His throat tightened. "They'll take you away," he said finally. "And they'll kill me for helping you." Lyra looked at him, pain filling her eyes. "Then we must leave." Aaron nodded slowly. "I've been thinking the same." They both knew it was madness. The base was guarded, and beyond it lay miles of desert wasteland. But staying meant death. Running meant a chance, no matter how small. That night, as Aaron prepared supplies, Lyra stood beside him and said softly, "You could stay, Lai. Be safe, why not?" He looked at her with a faint smile. "Because I already made my choice the moment I saw your face." She blinked, emotion filling her eyes. "You are foolish, Aaron Vale." "Maybe," he said, stepping closer. "But I'd rather be a fool who loves than a soldier who obeys." The words hung between them, fragile and true. Lyra lowered her head, her hands trembling. When she finally looked up again, tears shimmered in her violet eyes. "Then I will be your foolish star," she whispered. Aaron's heart broke and healed in the same instant. That night, as the base slept, two souls from enemy worlds planned to disappear together, to trade war for love, fear for hope, and law for freedom. Neither of them knew if they'd survive, but both knew one truth: they'd rather die together than live apart. And as Aaron watched her fall asleep beside him, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dim light, he whispered to himself, "For you, Lyra, I'll defy every law there is." For several days, Aaron and Lyra lived in secret. Every moment together felt stolen from a cruel world. The fear of discovery never left them, but their hearts had already chosen love over safety. Aaron had arranged everything carefully. He changed guard schedules, rerouted patrol drones, and deleted logs that could reveal the extra oxygen use from the medical bay. But no matter how careful he was, fate always finds a way to test what the heart treasures most. One morning, alarms blared across the base. Red lights flashed through the corridors, and loud metallic voices shouted orders. Aaron's blood turned cold. He ran toward the medbay, but it was too late. Soldiers stood outside Isolation Chamber 3. The door had been forced open. Lyra was on her knees inside, surrounded by armed men. Her silver hair shimmered under the harsh lights, and her helmet lay shattered beside her. A captain pointed at her. "Alien confirmed. She's been here for days." Aaron's world stopped. His breath caught in his chest. For a second, he couldn't even move. Then instinct took over. "Wait!" he shouted, running forward. "Don't touch her." The soldiers turned, rifles raised. The captain's eyes narrowed. "Lieutenant Vale, you brought this thing here?" Aaron stood frozen, his mind spinning. He wanted to lie, to find a way out. But when he saw Lyra's trembling hands and terrified eyes, he knew there was no point in hiding the truth anymore. "Yes," he said softly. "I brought her." The room went silent. Then the captain's voice turned to rage. "You betrayed your own species. You helped the enemy." Lyra tried to speak, but one of the soldiers struck her across the face, knocking her to the floor. Aaron's anger exploded. He lunged forward, punching the soldier so hard the man fell backward. In seconds, others grabbed Aaron, restraining him. "Don't hurt her," he roared, struggling against their grip. "She's not the enemy." Lyra's eyes filled with tears as she watched him fight for her. "Aaron," she whispered, "stop. They'll kill you." He ignored her. His voice broke with emotion. "If you kill her, you'll prove the monsters aren't them, they're us." The captain's face twisted in disgust. "Enough, take them both to containment. The council will decide their punishment." As they dragged him away, Aaron managed to twist his head and look back at Lyra. Her eyes met his one last time, filled with pain, fear, and something deeper, love. They threw him into a dark cell, his wrists still bleeding from the restraints. For hours he sat there in silence, his mind replaying the moment over and over. He couldn't erase the image of her face when they struck her, or the sound of her voice calling his name. When the door finally opened, an officer entered. His face was cold and expressionless. "Lieutenant Aaron Vale, you're charged with treason, espionage, and aiding the enemy. You'll be executed at dawn." Aaron didn't flinch. "What about her?" The officer paused. "The alien? She'll be sent to the labs. They want to study her kind." Aaron's stomach turned. He slammed his fists against the metal table. You can't! She's not a thing, she's a person. The officer looked at him like he was insane. You've lost your mind, Vale. You fell for it, a creature pretending to be human. When the door closed again, Aaron sank to the floor. His chest burned with rage and helplessness. He had risked everything, his rank, his freedom, his life, and now he was going to lose her anyway. He pressed his forehead against the cold wall and whispered her name. Lyra. In another part of the base, Lyra sat in a glass cell, her wrists bound, tears streaking her pale face. She could still hear his voice in her head, the promise he made on the moon. I'll find you again. She closed her eyes, whispering through the pain. I'll wait for you, Aaron Vale. Even if the stars fall, I'll wait. And somewhere deep in that cold metal base, two hearts from different worlds beat for each other, divided by walls, but united by something stronger than any army could destroy. The night before Aaron's execution was silent. The base, once loud with machines and footsteps, felt like a tomb. The guards avoided his cell, whispering about the traitor who loved an alien. But Aaron didn't care about what they said. He sat on the cold floor, staring at the wall, thinking only of her. He remembered the warmth of her hands, the way she smiled when she learned a human word, and the trembling whisper when she said his name. That memory burned brighter than any star outside the window. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the corridor. The cell door hissed open. Aaron lifted his head, expecting soldiers. But instead, a familiar figure stepped inside. A scientist from the base, Dr. Hannah, one of the few who had seen Lyra and hadn't called her creature. She looked nervous. Aaron, I don't have much time. The council ordered her transfer tonight. They'll take her to the orbital lab in the morning. Aaron's heart clenched. Then she'll die there. Hannah nodded slowly. Yes, unless someone helps her escape. Aaron's eyes widened. You? She sighed, pressing a small device into his hands. There's an old shuttle in Bay 9. I can override your cell lock for 5 minutes. After that, I can't help you anymore. You'll have to decide if she's worth it. He didn't even hesitate. She's worth everything. Within minutes, alarms blared once again through the base. Only this time, it wasn't Lyra being hunted. Aaron moved like a ghost through the smoke and shadows. Every corner he turned, he felt his heart pounding harder. Soldiers shouted orders. Red lights spun like angry eyes. When he finally reached the lab, he saw her, Lyra, weak, surrounded by machines. Her silver hair glowed under the sterile lights, and tubes ran from her arms to humming devices. He smashed the glass door open with his shoulder, panting. Lyra, her head lifted weakly. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. Aaron. They said you were, not yet, he said, cutting her free. But we have to go now. They ran through the corridors, alarms screaming louder every second. He held her hand tightly, refusing to let go. The world outside was chaos, searchlights, drones, soldiers. But ahead, beyond the smoke, was Bay 9. The shuttle waited, engines humming like a heartbeat of hope. A group of guards appeared, blocking the path. Aaron raised his stolen blaster, his voice breaking. Stand down. Please, don't make me do this. One of them hesitated, lowering his weapon slightly. Maybe he saw something human in Aaron's eyes. Maybe he remembered love once too. The pause was enough. Aaron pulled Lyra through the open hatch, sealing the shuttle doors behind them. The engines roared to life, shaking the ground. Bullets and plasma bolts hit the hull, but the small ship lifted anyway, flames burning through the night sky. Lyra clung to him, trembling. They'll hunt us forever. Aaron smiled, his voice soft. Then let them try. The shuttle broke through the clouds, and for the first time, stars filled the window. Lyra stared at them in awe. They're beautiful. He looked at her, his heart full. Not as beautiful as the moment your helmet fell. She laughed through her tears, resting her head against his shoulder. And now? He kissed her forehead gently. Now I'll defy every law ever written just to keep you safe. Years passed. The war ended. Humanity finally learned that peace was not made with weapons, but with understanding. Records spoke of a mysterious pilot who disappeared during the war, and of an alien woman whose people never invaded again. Far beyond the old colonies, on a small blue-green moon, two figures built a home. They planted seeds from both worlds, growing a garden that shone silver under the twin suns. Every night, Aaron sat beside Lyra under the open sky. She'd lean against him, her voice calm and filled with love. You kept your promise, she'd whisper, and he'd smile softly, watching the stars that once divided them. No, he'd say, we kept it together, for love had done what no weapon could. It united two worlds, and somewhere among the endless stars, a legend was born. The human who broke every law to love beyond species, beyond fear, and found peace not through war but through the simple power of the heart.